tell you all about it. I'm going to kick off by telling you about when I first decided to move to America, then I'll follow by telling you how it came about, and then proceed to tell you about the three kind of cultural differences I came across during my first 48 hours in this country. I was born in England in a county called Staffordshire. Staffordshire is actually right in the centre of England. It's about 1 hour from the second and third largest cities in the country, Birmingham and Manchester, and it's 3 hours north of London. I was 5 years old when I decided I wanted to move to America, believe it or not. I had this sticker atlas, and I was putting in all the different stickers for all the different countries, and when I got to the one for the United States of America, I decided that was where I was going to live. I also decided that I was going to live in New York, Florida, and California. Admittedly, these were probably the areas that actually had stickers. I highly doubt that there was a Reno sticker in there. I think these were just the ones with like dolphins for Florida and the Statue of Liberty for New York. But nevertheless, I made my decision then that I would move to this country. As I grew up, I began to get a lot more realistic. And I began to think of this country as somewhere that I would just come on a vacation one day. However, years later, while studying in the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, I got the opportunity to be an exchange student. And in being an exchange student, I got to study in New York State at the University of Binghamton, which is about 4 hours above New York City. On August the 23rd, 2003, I moved to America. I was terrified. I left my life behind, got on that plane, and arrived in New York City. After 24 hours in the city, I went to Port Authority bus station and I boarded a bus to my new home, Binghamton, New York. Well, on that bus journey, I actually discovered that the US and British definitions of a city are two very different things. In England, to be a city, you need to be a really significant size. You need to have a certain amount of population, you need to have certain amenities. You really are pretty big if you're classified as a city. Every year, towns compete to become and gain that city status. When I did my research on Binghamton, the city I was going to live in, it said it was a triple city. Well, this is America, and everyone knows that things are bigger and better here in America. So I pictured this huge city, at least the size of Edinburgh. So I'm traveling on this bus, waiting to arrive in this great big city that's going to be just like the cities I'm used to in Europe, except probably bigger. And I'm about 10 minutes from my destination, based on timing, and the bus pulls up in a parking lot, or a car park, as I probably knew it at the time. And the bus stops. And I'm very, very confused. This doesn't look like a bus station. Why have we stopped? We're so close. Surely this is a strange place to have a break. Then the bus driver announces, "Welcome to Binghamton." And as I step out of the bus, I have money in my pocket ready for the porter to have my luggage. And I quickly realize, as the bus driver hands me my luggage, and I have these two 70-pound suitcases for not traveling light. And back then, I guess airlines were a lot more generous with what they let you bring with you. So I'm there with these 70-pound suitcases, dragging them very, very slowly across this parking lot towards what looks like a hut. I probably wondered what on earth I had done. I then, after finally getting the luggage to the bus station, I was able to call a cab, and I headed over to my school. On that cab journey, I had one of those cab drivers that tells you his life story. He told me about his bad divorce, that he was going to be this famous author one day, and finally we arrived at the school. I step out, and there's this chirping noise, and that was the second cultural difference I noticed. I didn't know what this chirping noise was. Years later, I found out, well, not years later, probably days later, I found out that it was crickets. Crickets are obviously everywhere here, the most normal noise you ever hear. But in England, they didn't have many crickets. And I guess where I grew up, it was just very built up. So it was very new to me. Well, then the next difference was that evening. I met the RAs from my college, and we went out for dinner. And one of them told me that he was Irish. And I asked him, well, how often do you go back to Ireland? And then I learned that when someone in this country says that they are Irish, they actually mean that their grandparents were from there, or uncle or aunts. They look at you a little That was very different to England, as in England, if you say you're from a country or that you are Irish or English, you've grown up there or at least been born there. I actually ended up settling in very well to life in Binghamton. It was not actually as small as I thought. It's actually a little bit bigger than Reno. And I guess I got used to like how US cities are kind of sprawled, you need a car here. And I settled in really well. And my change here actually ended up changing my life. I ended up graduating from the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and then moving back to the US. First to Florida, then later to California, just like my sticker atlas growing up. Admittedly, the places I lived in New York were probably not quite where the stickers were, but nevertheless, it was amazing how that little atlas from when I was a kid and my little childhood dream actually became a reality. Emigrating is not as easy as it sounds. There's a lot of sacrifices you make when you move into a new country. There's definitely a lot of challenges. At times you feel torn between the two countries. But nevertheless, with a lot of determination and hard work, I've created a great life for myself here and made that little dream I had when I was 5 years old turn into a reality. Thank you very much and have a great day.